Ever imagine shrinking the solar system, like really shrinking it down
Hmm.
to a size where, I don't know, you could walk from Earth to Jupiter in an afternoon?
That's one way to put it. You'd need some small steps, though, right?
Yeah.
What's got you picturing that kind of miniaturization?
Well, today's deep dive is taking us on a journey through the Melbourne Solar System Trail.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's so special about this trail?
Well, picture this. It's a 5.9-kilometer stretch of coastline right there in Melbourne, Australia. And it's a scale model of our solar system.
Hold on, a whole model solar system crammed into less than 6 kilometers? How does that even work?
That's the amazing part. They've scaled it down to 1 to 1 billion. Every millimeter on the trail represents a whopping 1,000 kilometers in space. We're talking serious shrinkage.
Whoa, okay, so every step you take is like a giant leap through space. That's got to mess with your sense of scale.
Totally. And to guide us through this cosmic adventure, we've got Katerina's blog, The Nomadic Explorers, alongside some official info on the trail.
I'm already hooked. So instead of just like staring at a textbook diagram, you can actually experience the distances between planets. That's incredible.
Exactly. And Katerina decided to do things a bit differently. Instead of starting at the sun like most people, she began her journey at Pluto.
Pluto! Wow, talk about a long-distance bike ride. What made her choose that as a starting point?
Well, I think it's kind of fitting, don't you think? Pluto, this distant dwarf planet, often considered the outlier of our solar system. Starting at the very edge, it's like starting at the back of the cosmic line.
And realizing just how much ground, or should I say space, there is to cover before you even reach the main attraction.
Exactly. And speaking of covering ground, if the entire trail is 5.9 kilometers, Pluto must be pretty darn far from the sun, even in this scaled-down version.
Let me guess, almost the full 5.9 kilometers.
You got it.
It's kind of sad, Pluto getting demoted to a dwarf planet. People had a hard time letting go of that ninth planet.
It's true. I mean, Pluto's like that friend who always keeps things interesting, even if they're a little unconventional. But before we get too sidetracked, let's get back to Katerina's journey. She starts at Pluto, this tiny, icy world, way out in the Kuiper Belt.
Hold on, the Kuiper Belt? You're telling me they managed to squeeze that region of icy asteroids and dwarf planets into this model?
You did? It's incredible when you think about it. This trail doesn't just represent the planets. It gives you a glimpse of the vastness beyond. Like, imagine cycling past Pluto and then realizing you've got a whole other neighborhood to explore.
Okay, now that's what I call a cosmic perspective shift. Suddenly, Pluto doesn't seem so lonely out there on the edge.
Right. And speaking of perspective, the next planet Katerina encounters as she makes her way towards the sun is Neptune, a whopping 4.5 kilometers from the starting point.
4.5 kilometers on a bike. That's a good chunk of time. Although, I guess when you're talking about the distances between planets, it's practically next door.
It really puts things into perspective. And to think, even at that distance, we're still talking about a planet with supersonic winds and a deep blue color that would put any ocean on Earth to shame.
Neptune's pretty amazing, even if it is a bit of a cold, distant giant. And to think, it wasn't even discovered by looking through a telescope. It was mathematicians noticing something was off with Uranus's orbit.
Isn't that wild? They basically predicted Neptune's existence before they ever saw it. Just goes to show, sometimes the most exciting discoveries happen when you least expect them.
Speaking of unexpected, can we talk about Uranus for a second? That whole tilted on its side thing is just bizarre.
Right. Imagine a planet rolling through space like a ball instead of spinning like a top. Makes you wonder what kind of cosmic event could cause something like that.
A massive collision, probably, early in its history. Talk about a bad day in the solar system. So we've gone from Pluto to Neptune to sideways spinning Uranus, and now I bet Katerina's getting to the really good stuff, right?
She is. Up next, Saturn and those iconic rings.
Ah, Saturn. Even in miniature form, they must be something else.
Oh, absolutely. Katerina's photos show them shimmering in the sunlight, and they look so delicate, almost fragile, like a giant cosmic disco ball.
It's a good reminder that appearances can be deceiving. Those rings may look solid, but they're actually made up of billions of icy particles all gracefully orbiting Saturn.
Like a giant celestial game of ring toss, but with ice instead of plastic rings. And Saturn's not just about the bling. Did you know it has a moon bigger than the planet Mercury?
Wait, a moon bigger than a planet? Okay, now I'm really starting to get a sense of the scale here.
It's mind-blowing, right? And that moon, Titan, it has its own atmosphere, a super dense one, too. So dense we can't even see the surface from Earth.
Talk about a mysterious moon. It really makes you realize how much we still don't know about our own cosmic backyard. It's humbling, isn't it? Like, we think we've got it all figured out, and then you see something like that and realize how much more there is to explore.
It makes you feel pretty small, in a good way. But, even with all those moons and those incredible rings, Saturn is still just a pit stop on Katerina's journey. She's still got a long way to pedal before she reaches the sun.
And speaking of the sun, she's about to encounter a planet that's practically a giant, even compared to Saturn. Get ready for Jupiter. At this scale, it's 778 meters from the sun model.
Jupiter, the king of the planets. I mean, Saturn may have the bling with those rings, but Jupiter's got the mass. What makes this gas giant so impressive, even in miniature?
Well, for starters, its gravity is off the charts. It's like a giant shield out there, deflecting comets and asteroids that might otherwise, head our way.
So basically, Jupiter is like Earth's cosmic bodyguard.
Exactly. Although it can be a bit of a bully, too, pulling in space debris with that powerful gravitational pull.
I guess that explains why it has so many moons. It's like collecting them as it goes, like cosmic souvenirs.
And what a collection. Jupiter's got at least 70 moons on its arms, some with volcanoes that would make Mount Everest look like a hill.
Volcanoes on other moons. Okay, now that's just showing off. It's like Jupiter's got its own little solar system going on over there.
And to think, Katerina just casually cycled past it. It really makes you wonder, right? Like, what other incredible sights are out there in our own solar system just waiting to be discovered?
It really does make you think. Okay, so she's made it past Jupiter, the king of the planets, and now she's heading towards... Well, something tells me things are about to get a little heated.
You're talking about Mars, right? The red planet. The one that's been captivating our imaginations for, well, forever.
The red planet. Even shrunk down to this size, it must stand out against the backdrop of the coastline. I mean, you can't miss that rusty red color.
Definitely not. And while, the brochure debunks some of those wild theories about advanced civilizations, it does mention some seriously impressive features. Olympus Mons, for example. Ever heard of it?
Olympus Mons. Rings a bell. Remind me.
Only the biggest volcano in our solar system. 3 times the height of Mount Everest. Can you believe that?
3 times the height of Mount Everest. Okay, now that's just ridiculous. I can't even imagine what the view must be like from up there.
You'd be able to see forever. And then there's Valles Marineris, this gigantic canyon system. It makes the Grand Canyon look like a tiny ditch.
So what I'm hearing is Mars may be small, but it's definitely got it going on when it comes to geological wonders.
And who knows what else we'll discover in the future. But for now, let's get back to Katerina. She's about to experience something pretty special as she continues on this solar system journey.
Let me guess. She's approaching Earth.
You got it. Our home planet. And get this, at this scale, Earth is only 150 meters from the sun model.
150 meters. That's like, what, a stone's throw in cosmic terms?
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? How close we are to our star, how precious and fragile our planet really is.
It probably makes that whole pale blue dot photo even more poignant, right?
Absolutely. You see that tiny dot surrounded by the vastness of space, and it really hits home we're all in this together on this one little planet.
It makes you wonder what it would be like to stand on that model Earth, look back and see those miniature versions of the planet she's already visited. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto.
Like holding the entire solar system in the palm of your hand, each of those tiny planets with their own stories to tell, their own mysteries waiting to be solved.
It's enough to make your head spin. But okay, so Katerina's cycled past Earth, our pale blue dot, and now she's getting closer and closer to the main attraction, the heart of it all, the sun.
But hold on, and not so fast. She's got 2 more planets to zip past before she gets there. First up, Venus.
Venus, the planet that's often called Earth's twin, at least in terms of size. But when it comes to, well, everything else, it's a completely different story.
That's putting it mildly. Venus is like Earth's evil twin, with a toxic atmosphere and temperatures hot enough to melt lead.
I'm sensing a serious lack of welcome signs on that planet.
You could say that. Definitely not a place you want to get caught without well, I don't even know what kind of suit could protect you from that kind of heat.
Definitely not your average vacation destination. Okay, so Katerina dodges the imaginary heat waves of Venus. What's next?
And finally, she arrives at the star of the show. The big cheese. The one and only, the sun.
Even scaled down to a fraction of its size, it must be pretty impressive to see up close.
Oh, absolutely. Remember, we're talking about a star that's 110 times larger than our own Earth, even after being shrunk down to this scale.
Just boggles the mind. It's funny, even though we've shrunk down the solar system to a size we can actually wrap our heads around, the scale of things is still just utterly mind-blowingly immense.
And that's just our sun, one star out of billions. in our galaxy alone.
And the Milky Way, just one of billions of galaxies out there in the universe. It makes you realize just how much more there is out there, beyond what we can even imagine.
It's enough to make your head spin, right?
Speaking of spinning heads, Katerina's done it. She's cycled the entire Melbourne Solar System trail, from the icy outskirts, past gas giants and ring wonders, all the way to the fiery heart of it all.
She's experienced firsthand the mind-boggling distances between the planets, the sheer scale of our sun, and probably gotten a killer leg workout at the same time.
And all while enjoying those amazing coastal views.
Yeah.
But even though Katerina's reached the end of the trail, our exploration of the Melbourne Solar System trail, well, that's far from over.
That's right, because there's one more mind-bending concept we need to tackle: the distance to our nearest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri. And trust me, it's a doozy.
Okay, now we're talking about leaving our solar system behind and venturing into interstellar space. Hit me with it. Just how far are we talking?
So remember how the entire Melbourne Solar System trail, the one we've been talking about, is only about 5.9 kilometers?
Yeah, hard to forget after mentally cycling alongside Katerina this whole time.
Right. Well, get this. Even at that mind-boggling scale of 1 to 1 billion, Proxima Centauri, our closest neighboring star,
Yeah.
it would still be incredibly far away. We're talking a whole different level of far out.
Okay, you've definitely got my attention. Did they, extend the trail for this? How do you even represent that kind of distance?
Okay, imagine this. Remember how the sun model, the end of Katerina's journey, is near St. Kilda Pier?
Yeah, I can practically picture it.
To represent Proxima Centauri at the same scale, to have it be accurate, we'd need to hop on a plane and travel over 40,000 kilometers away.
Wait, seriously, 40,000 kilometers?
Yeah.
That's like going around the entire Earth just to reach the next star over.
You got it. It's like walking the length of your street to get a sense of your city, then needing to fly across an entire continent just to see the next town over.
And this whole time we thought that 5.9-kilometer trail was impressive. It's
Yeah.
like that saying space is really, really big.
And empty. Don't forget empty. It really drives home just how vast an empty space really is. It's enough to make your head spin.
More than a little bit. It makes you appreciate those few and far between planets even more. Like little oases in a cosmic desert.
Exactly. But, even though it's mind-boggling, there's a certain beauty to it, don't you think? Like, by shrinking down the solar system, we've kind of expanded our understanding of the universe. It's a paradox, almost.
I get what you mean. It's like by making it small enough to grasp, it opens up this whole other level of understanding of how much more is out there. It makes you want to grab a telescope, lie down on the beach, and just stare at the stars for hours.
Speaking of stars, did you know that without a telescope, you can actually see another star system from Earth?
Wait, really? Which one? How have I never heard about this?
It's called Alpha Centauri, a little farther out than Proxima Centauri, about 4.3 light years away. But on our Melbourne solar system scale, if we were adding it to our imaginary model here,
Yeah.
it would only be another 600 kilometers or so away.
Only 600 kilometers. After talking about circumnavigating the globe, that almost feels within reach.
It really shows how relative distance can be in space, right? And what's even cooler is that Alpha Centauri isn't just one star. It's a binary system, two stars orbiting each other.
A cosmic dance, millions of kilometers away. It's pretty amazing to think about.
It really is. It just goes to show, every point of light up there in the night sky has a story to tell.
It's humbling, inspiring, and honestly, a little overwhelming. In the best way possible, of course.
That's the beauty of astronomy. It forces us to confront the vastness of the universe while also reminding us of our own place within it, right here on our tiny, precious planet.
And sometimes, all it takes is a walk along a beachfront trail to make you realize all that.
Well said. The Melbourne Solar System Trail, it's not just a model, is it? It's like a metaphor for the power of perspective, for understanding where we sit in this whole cosmic picture.
So, to everyone listening, next time you gaze up at the night sky, remember those incredible distances, the sheer scale and beauty of the universe we're all a part of. And hey, if you ever find yourself in Melbourne, be sure to check out the Melbourne Solar System Trail. It's a journey that'll stay with you long after you've reached the end of the path.